I really like to begin by diving into stories because I think it's a better way to introduce the guest compared to like just having them like speak about themselves or things like that. So I think that a great way to get into who you are and what you're doing would be for you to share the story of how you planned and how you went on a trip to Japan
Mm.
and how that was paid by your investments. I think that's a good way for people to know you and to know like the ideas that you encourage for people to like integrate into their lives. So yeah, if you could just get into that story and share like as much as you want.
Yeah, of course. I think that's a good one to start with. So, for context, I don't come from money. My family always struggled to pay bills, and they made good money. My dad was a technician. He worked at Intel, so like he made pretty good money, but money just always seemed to disappear and vanish. They didn't really have any money management skills or understand it, maybe the way I understand it now, which is I see money as a tool. Like the more you can get money to work in your favor, and use it as a tool to get out of life what you want, I think it's you can build a better relationship with money and then actually make better progress towards financial goals or just a better financial future where you're not as caught up in that paycheck to paycheck cycle, which a lot of people are. So my parents were definitely in that cycle. So I grew up, we constantly kind of had to scrap together just resources, like whether it's food or last minute trips or whatever. Like if we ever did do a trip, it was always just kind of scattered, and maybe
Mhm.
kind of not the greatest place. So early on, I just always had a fascination with, I saw how money made things difficult in our life, early on, and I wanted to change that. So I had a fascination with just trying to learn. I'm like, there has to be a way. Like, there's clearly people, like our neighbors seem to be doing just fine with money and being able to do whatever the hell they want. Where we, like, my family was still kind of struggling. So that kind of started my journey with just learning about money. At an early age, it mostly just started with asking questions, right? So like at school, if I saw, friends or, friends who had families that were doing well, I would literally just ask them. I would ask them like, hey, how, you know, can you teach me? Can you tell me like what this thing called the stock market is? What's investing? What's a
Mhm.
budget? Like, how do I budget? Just like basic questions like that, just to kind of get the ball kind of rolling. And long story short, what I realized is like a lot of people don't like to talk about money. I
Mhm.
got a lot of hesitation where people would give me just basic answers or not really want to go down that rabbit hole. And I was like, all right, whatever. And that kind of led me, thankfully we still have, the internet was kind of in its early stages. Um, and when I was 18, I actually kind of went down the whole rabbit hole of learning about the stock markets, using my best friend Google to learn as much as I can, soak in as much information. And then, of course, I found some great books that really helped build financial literacy in myself and just help me understand financial concepts, such as building a budget, such as investing in the stock markets. The Little Book of Common Sense Investing was one of the uh, early books that I read that just completely changed how I viewed investing in the stock market in general, and really kind of got me on that path towards building wealth for myself. And then, of course, being able to teach my friends and family. And I'd say that's kind of how the market hustle started. Is everything I learned, I would try to teach other people in my circle, whether it's my mom and dad, my friends, my cousins, my brothers. Like I was always the one that was giving the financial insights that I was learning to the people around me, because the people around me also didn't come from money. We all kind of struggled. So like that's kind of where my teaching skills came into play, was conveying what I learned. But all that being said, the Japan trip, it was a pretty sentimental trip for me because in my early 20s, especially when I was in college, like I just didn't have the extra cash to go travel internationally. I didn't have the luxury or the privilege to be able to um, go do like I mean, I could have done study abroads, but I didn't want to go into debt. Like I didn't want to add more
Mhm.
debt to
Mhm.
my student loans, because I saw what debt did to people around me, and my family as well. So I stuck to my plan. Like I continue to invest. I continue to learn, like sharpen my skills, learn new skills, so that I can make myself more valuable and then be able to make more money. And then, yeah, so recently my Japan trip back in May, so a couple of months ago, I went to Japan for the first time. And it was a sentimental trip because, for one, I've been wanting to go to Japan like all my life. I think
Hmm.
it's a beautiful country. I really like the culture, and I've really wanted to experience that. And so being able to make that trip happen was just kind of a testament to the journey I've been on personally. It's definitely been a scrappy journey. I have learned a lot through trial and error and also from other people around me. But just being able to go on that trip and for it to be fully paid for, I didn't have to go into any debts. It just kind of, it's just kind of a full circle, thinking back to where I was in my early 20s to where now I'm in my late 20s. I'm 29, and just being able to make that trip happen without having to worry about money or worry about how I'm going to pay for it or come home and have a credit card bill due or just this big debt bill due was something that really kind of hit a soft spot in my heart. It made everything I've done worth it, and it really kind of pumped me up. And I think it also helped even my family. Like they kind of saw, they've watched my entire journey with what I've been doing, what I've been building, and I'm a big advocate that you can build a lot of wealth, you can build a business, you can invest in the stock markets, and you can still enjoy life. I don't think it has to be one or the other. I think we love to categorize things where it's either one or the other. Like it's either you only invest, you never spend extra money where you don't have to, you delay enjoying life until you're 65, or it's the complete opposite end where people don't even care about money. They spend it like it's nothing. They only try to enjoy life, but what they do is they sabotage their financial future and they make life more difficult for themselves financially because they're kind of in that mindset of screw money. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to spend it all. We're going to die, whatever, yada, yada, yada. I think the answer is in the middle ground. Like, I think
Hmm.
you can enjoy life, like still go on trips, still plan, still spend money to enjoy life while also being strategic and smart with how you're spending money, while also still investing in the stock market. So yourself 10 years from now, your future self 10 years from now will have more options to maybe go on a trip to Japan or
Hmm.
go to Italy or wherever the hell you want to go. The more money you have, the more options you're going to be able to live your life to a fuller extent. So I think they go hand in hand. And I don't like when people categorize saying you have to focus on one or the other. I think you can do
Hmm.
both if you play your cards right.
I just told you that today, like, this is my third podcast. This is the third podcast that I am recording. And in all three conversations, a common topic has been like this mm, perspective of like, you don't need to choose one or the other. You can like have both. Like, you don't need to like throw your life away so that you can have money and you can have like financial resources. And you also don't have to just choose like, no, the other side of like, believing that money is not important or anything and I just want to chill or anything. It's like in these three podcasts it's been a common theme that yeah, like there are people who do have experience of learning to like combine both, right? Of having like financial assets and financial security to some extent, and then also like enjoying life. I think that in my case, I've been well. I mean, of course, I'm still young, but I have had experience of both sides to some extent. Because like I told you that I was backpacking. Well, I'm not sure if I told you, but like you might have seen on my Instagram stories that I was backpacking last year because I'm taking a gap year after high school. Well, this is actually the last month of my gap year. But
Nice.
for that trip, I sold like everything that I had invested to pay for that trip. So that was like going back to zeros. And what I had invested came from like the things that I started doing online, like the book blog, some freelancing services, and things like that. And then
Mhm.
after I came back from backpacking and I started working again online, I started like having this more long term vision and approach for my finances, which is like right now I am investing, but I'm also like saving some money for traveling and really for enjoying like the things that I'm doing. So like an example of that is that I in May I went to Costa Rica for 1 month, and I didn't need to like sell everything or anything like that. I still kept my investments and just had like my budget for traveling, and I enjoyed it. Um, and there are a lot of things that I would love to get into, and I think that the first one is that it sounds like also these things came together into your life, like at the same time, in some sort of way that involved synchronicity. Like you went to Japan, paying that without having to worry about like the finances, about like going into debt or anything. Also, the market hustle was about to reach 1 million followers. It's already past 1 million followers, which is crazy. And I think that you have also turned that into a business, right? It's also like some project that you have that has grown into a business.
Yeah, it's definitely it's grown into something I never could have imagined 5 years ago. It started, Emiliano, I honestly, I started basically how you were doing it. Like I started as a hobby. It was just kind of on the side. I was just kind of
Hmm.
seeing what was going to happen with it. And a lot of it was just connecting with people who kind of talked on the same wavelength that I talked on, right? Where I
Hmm.
like to talk about the stock market. I like to talk about investing. I'm just curious about things going on in that space, like genuinely
Hmm.
curious, as well as money management side of things. Like I think people have such a bad relationship with money management or just money in general. And what happens is when you have a bad relationship with money, whether you see it as good or whether you see it as evil, is it causes people to kind of self sabotage themselves from ever getting more of it. Because if you see it as bad, you're not going to go do things that make you more money because you see money as bad. It's like you're
Hmm.
gonna subconsciously prevent yourself from actually improving your skills or improving your negotiation skills or whatever it is from getting more money because you have a bad relationship from it, bad relationship with money fundamentally, compared to if you see money as a tool, which is what it is fundamentally. Uh, it's a lot easier to get more of it and have more control over your financial future, which then gives you more options to live life how you want, whether that's traveling to Costa Rica or whether it's starting a family. It's a lot easier to start a family when you have more control over your
Hmm.
money, or starting a business, right? Like if you're going to start a business, you have to see money as a tool. You
Hmm.
can't see money as evil or bad if you want to start and run your own business, because if you do, your business is going to collapse. Like you have to be able to have cash flow coming in and out in a sustainable way. And that's why I'm so passionate about money management and budgeting. Although it seems basic, I think it's fundamental to like the society, whether you like it or not. It's the society we live in. Like there is money; it's a part of society, and why not make it easier for you to maneuver through that society by learning the skills that are going to make it easier and give you more options, maybe 5 years down the road, to enjoy life more fully.
Hmm. No, yeah, totally. I would like to get into some topics and concepts that I have seen and in your content lately, and that I think are very valuable and practical for people listening. And I would like you to dive into these with stories, if you can. And if there are no stories, doesn't matter. We'll keep it just like about the topic. But
Yeah, let's do it.
regarding this point, I saw a post where you mentioned like the four stages of wealth: so stability, strategy, security, and freedom. But with what you just said, I would add like a fifth stage, which would be like the foundational stage, which is like changing your beliefs about money, right? Which is
Yeah.
like really starting to see money in a different way, like trying to, of course, learn the basics of like personal finances, but also changing your beliefs about money, because that might well, it not not might, it will affect like how you manage that. Was that a problem for you at any time, like your beliefs about money, that you also needed to shift to go through these four stages of wealth, or was that something that came naturally to you?
I would say in the beginning, I definitely had to reframe how I viewed things. I I've always been one that like I want to fully enjoy my life to the best of my ability. Like I don't want to be the one where I'm only chase. Like I think people sometimes have the wrong perception of me, where they think of me as the money guy. They're like, oh, that's all that guy cares about. All he cares about is getting more money and investing and trying to get the biggest number in his bank account. Like that's all he cares about. It's like that's completely false. Like what I care about is fully enjoying my life, like being able to. I want to travel the world, like I want to go to more countries, and it's like in order
Mhm.
to do that, I'm just being practical. Like you have to have money, right? It's like
Mhm. Mhm.
practically speaking, that's the truth. So I would say in the beginning, I did struggle where maybe when I did get some money, I wanted to spend it right away because I saw it as something more scarce. Where like when I grew up in a family where money was more scarce, like that kind of gets passed on to you in a sense as a kid.
Mhm.
So I did have to work on delaying the gratification of spending money or just reframing how I see it, not necessarily as a scarce tool or as something that's scarce, but something that I can get more of. I can learn skills to generate more of, and then I can also invest it to make more money as well. So I kind of had to go from something that was scarce to being able to see it as an abundant, like something that's actually abundant if you learn the
Mhm.
right skills. So like that was definitely a transition. I would argue that there's probably still elements of it like within me because like I don't think it ever fully leaves
Mhm.
your mindset, like especially when you grow up. Like a lot of your money habits, especially like the deeper psychological money habits, like they tend to be kind of ingrained when you're
Mhm.
a kid, whether it's from your parents, whether it's from your school system, whether it's from your culture. You're in Europe, right, Emiliano?
No, I'm in Mexico still. Yeah, I'm moving
Mexico.
to Spain in September. But yeah.
Okay, nice, nice. So yeah, even the difference in like money culture with between Mexico and the U.S., there's a big difference between those two cultures,
Mhm.
and especially in Europe, Europe and the U.S. Like although they're both Western cultures, like they still have different mindsets or views of money and investing in general,
Mhm.
and that will impact you in one way or
Mhm.
another. And so I think you're right that the belief stage or the you know, I know people call it cliche, but the mindset part of money is fundamental because if you don't work on changing your relationship with how you view money, then circling back to my point earlier, like you're going to sabotage yourself from ever getting more of it. And so, yeah, the four stages of wealth, number one was stability, making sure you have no debts, making sure your bills are paid, making sure your savings are funded. Number two was strategy, starting to invest, putting your money to work for you. Number three was financial security, enjoying your money, eating good food, traveling without having to worry about anything,
Mhm.
without having to worry about debts or coming home to a financial mess.
Mhm.
And then number four is like truly financial freedom, where money is no longer an issue to doing the things you want in life. Like you could literally work on any project, work with any people you want to uh, work on with any people you want to work with, enjoy more free time with your family. I think the whole point of this financial freedom journey, or the whole point of budgeting and investing, it's not just to increase your money score. It's to increase the options you have available to you and free yourself from ending up on the path that most people are on, which is constantly struggling with money. And they
Mhm.
get in this repetitive cycle where the more they struggle with money, the more they hate money, and then the more that they sabotage themselves from ever thinking it's possible to change their financial future,
Mhm.
or change their financial habits because it's so ingrained in their mindset. But so I agree with you that I think I should have added a pre-stage, like maybe a stage zero, where it's learning where your blind spots are when it comes to money and investing. I'll leave you with a quick book. One of my favorite books, and one that I think helps a lot with this kind of reframing your relationship with money, as well as maybe helping you uncover the blind spots that you might have about money that you might not even realize. The Psychology of Money
Mhm.
is one of the best books that will kind of really help um,
Mhm.
just expose the different frameworks or ways to kind of view money, as well as expose maybe any of the blind spots you have. It's by Morgan Housel. Such a great book. He dives deep into the just some of the stuff that I don't think people consider often. And I would say it's pretty tied into using money as a tool.
Mhm.
and explains how money is much more behavioral, especially when it comes to building those skills, than it is just logical. Because like I could sit here and tell everybody like, hey, start a everybody's heard it, right? Everybody's heard to build a budget. Everybody's heard to invest in the stock markets. But then the real question is like, why are you not doing that?
Mhm.
And I think the psychology of money is a great book to read and kind of chew on a little bit, because it really dives into some of those mental reframe or mindset reframes that can help you get to that stage one, stage two, stage three, and stage four. Because you're right, like the mindset stuff, the beliefs. If you're not careful, beliefs will hold you back from ever making progress in whatever domain
Mhm.
you're operating in.
Sure. No, no, no. Yeah, I haven't read that book yet, but I did hear about it. Like I think when it came out, and I was still doing the book blog thing. So yeah, I mean, I guess it would be good to get into that book since it's like reinforcing the basics, right? Which is like important for this. I want to get into like for the rest of the time we have for the conversation, I want to get into four things, which
Yeah.
is like just a question about where you are in the four stages, then something about culture, then about strategy, which is something that I have seen that you talk a lot about, and then also just like some final questions that I usually ask all of my guests. So yeah, just like a short one before getting into the others. Where are you currently in those four stages, if you don't mind
So
sharing?
it's a good question. I'm probably in stage 3.5 is what I would say. It's like I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
close to the freedom parts, but yeah, there's still more work to do. And I'll say I'd say the hardest stage, like let me give some more context, because um I would argue the stages kind of get easier to achieve once you get that momentum going, because you have the momentum behind you helping push you closer to those later stages. But I would say that the hardest stage is stage one, like building those initial habits, building your money management skills, getting rid of debts, paying your bills on time, making sure your savings are funded, like you have a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. That's the hardest part, because it requires the most initial effort, especially if you're starting from zero, like I was. Like I started with debt. Like I actually started negative. I had student loans,
Mm-hmm.
and so like it makes it even more difficult. And I can understand, like especially if somebody listening to this, if you're in that stage where you're kind of early on in your financial journey, it can be pretty damn intimidating, looking or even discussing money, because you might not want even to open that box. You might not want even to have a look in there, because it requires you to kind of just completely change how you're maneuvering through your financial life. And I think that's a big barrier for why people avoid it, or they don't want to talk about money, is because they don't want to have to acknowledge the financial situation they're currently in, which is
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable as hell. But once you get past that first stage, like once you do open that box and take a look in, and once you actually start to use money as a tool and build the money management skills, build the investing skills, then it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of getting the compound effect working in your favor. Once you start investing money, that money is going to start making you money. Like it's going to start making you more money. And then ideally, you'll keep that money invested or reinvest it. So then that money that you just made is going to go and make you even more money. So it's kind of like a snowball rolling down a big mountain. It's like at first, when you throw that snowball down, it's going to be pretty small. It's not going to be big at all. But like the more time passes, the more that snowball is going to pick up and gather snow, and the bigger it's going to get. And so
Mm-hmm.
like that momentum is huge. Like once it takes time to see that momentum. Like I'm not going to lie to you. Like it's probably going to take you a good 2 to 3 years to start to feel that
Mm-hmm.
momentum. But once it gets going, not only is it addicting, but you really just kind of have this new energy, or just way you kind of maneuver through life, because you know the system that you've built is working behind the scenes. And it's like the stage four, the financial freedom stage, is only a matter of time, and it's just continuing to do what you got to do to get there. And a lot of it is like once you start investing, your money starts to do more of the work, not you. And
Mm-hmm.
I'd much rather have my money harder at work than I am. And I think if that's also what makes me so passionate about the market hustles, because I think people have it mistaken, where they think that to make a lot of money you have to work hard, It's like, yes, you do have to put in hard work. Like, I don't want people to get confused, but at the same time, the real wealth, like a lot of these rich people, like they get rich from putting their money to work. It's not their time. It's like that's where the magic is. That's where the leverage is. It's, you can only work. Me and Emiliano can only work, if we really wanted to, maybe 16 hours if we really pushed it a day. Like that's what we're maxed out to, because we're human, right? We can only work so many hours. But your money can work around the clock. It can work 24/7. Like money doesn't care. And at the same time, it can recruit more money. Like when your money, if you invest $1 and then it makes back $2, you can put that $2 back in the stock market, and now you got $3 working for you, working 24/7 around the clock, also attracting more money. It's like at the end of the day, money will always be able to work harder than you ever can. And so it's like, get that to work in your favor. Like learn about it. First of all, learn about compound interest, learn about index funds, learn about the stock market in general, and then get a system in place to actually make it work in your favor so that you can get that momentum going, and then eventually be able to enjoy life a lot more, maybe go travel, maybe spend more time with your family, maybe start a business. Like more options are going to open up to you when you get that foundation built. And yeah, just to circle back, the first stage is always the hardest. That initial stage you're not going to feel any momentum. It requires pure grit. Like you literally just have to rip off the Band-Aid and get things in order, get your finances in order. But once you do, 3 to 5 years down the road, you're going to start to feel that momentum. And the cool thing is every year that momentum is just going to speed up a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more.
Sure.
And that's where the magic comes into play. So
yeah, a lot of the things you said have to do with this part of like strategy and systems, which I want to get into. But just before that, like another short topic I want to discuss, which I think is valuable since my audience is very international, not necessarily US based, which is like the influence of culture. And I think that it's interesting. It would be interesting for you to talk about this, or what your experience with this has been. Like, how have you noticed that money is managed around the world, managed by people, like by individuals, how they think about it? Because I think that, as you were saying, like the culture influences a lot, like the family systems, and then that influences like the individual systems, which like in a country like the US, like money is well, yeah, it's obviously a big thing, and it's a very common topic. While in other countries it might be even taboo, or it might be like considered evil in some way, which I guess that happens everywhere, but like the degree to which that happens like varies among cultures. But yeah, like what have you seen, if you have like any insights on that, on other cultures?
yeah, it's a good question. And I've actually been talking to some people from Singapore recently. Some people who've followed my page. That's actually a segment that's been growing pretty well with the Market Hustle. Are people who are in Singapore, and their culture around money is actually pretty fascinating to me, because they seem, the US on the global stage is definitely more open to money conversations. It's probably one of the most capitalist countries in the world. So there's definitely no limited, or there's no limits on the amount of discussions money's have. The amount of discussion money is had in the United States, but I would say Singapore seems to be at a whole nother level. Like it's actually much more socially acceptable to talk openly about money in Singapore, from what I've noticed and what I've talked with people about. And that was super interesting. I will say, when it comes to just like the global conversation, I do see these conversations kind of increasing. I think people are starting to find money concepts more important to consider, especially since, I mean, think about this. Like my thing is like, it's going to, money impacts you one way or another, whether you like it or not. It's like, you might as well learn a little bit about it so you can better handle it and have a more stable or better quality of life. I think that realization is kind of being had by a lot of people, especially over the last 5 years with, the whole COVID situation and how a lot of countries have experienced high inflation. I think that's kind of had people question, like, what the hell's going on here? Like, why is my money losing value? Like, what do I do? First of all, like that's the first question. It's like, hey, maybe somebody earns a lot of money and they start to realize that all their bills are going up as well, and their income's not quite going up as much as they'd hope to kind of offset that, that tends to get the money conversation going a little bit when it's more practical. And I think that's why on the, on the global stage, I've noticed people are having these conversations a little bit more frequently. I have some followers in the UK, and it's still pretty taboo in the UK to talk about openly about money, especially compared to the US. But nonetheless, like there are people starting to openly talk about it,
Mhm.
and it's it seems to be coming a little less taboo, which is kind of cool. And my thing is, you know, we can talk about why it's taboo, or the system in place. Like, is there are there people who benefit from the masses, or other people not wanting to learn about money, or not understand it? It's like, I'll let you fill in the blank for that one. But my thing is like, you work, like everybody works, unless you're an entrepreneur. But even if you are an entrepreneur, you're running your own business. But everybody works for a business. And my thing is like, if you think investing money in a business is a scam, then imagine continuing to spend your whole life chasing, maybe $1 or $2 raise for 40 years, working for a business, and continuing to, live paycheck to paycheck and have your bills rise a lot faster than your income. Like, to me, that's the bigger scam. Like that's the scam right there, is not having your income rise faster than the cost of living, which is rising across the world,
Mhm.
as well as kind of being taken advantage of by your labor. Because if you're hired on by a business, they're only going to hire you if it makes sense to them financially. Like, they're not going to hire you if they're not making a profit, essentially. So to me, it's like the bigger scam is never learning about that and then doing something about it. Like, I think you have an obligation, if you want to live a less stressful financial life, to learn about investing, to learn about money management, because the bigger scam is never learning about it and continually being taken advantage of by these companies you work for, or the cost of living that continually goes up. And that's not a situation you want to end up in. And I think if you start now, like, yes, it's going to take time. Yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. But 5 years from now, your future self is going to be tremendously grateful for you taking the time to do that and kind of ripping off the band-aid, because it's going to just allow you to maneuver through life with a lot more flow and flexibility and options.
Sure. No, and I think that on that last point, one way to add urgency for people in some way is that like even that job stability is not as it used to be like many years ago, right? Especially
Yeah,
with things like AI right now, it's like where your job can be automated by AI in many ways. Like
for
right
sure.
now, there might not be like that much of job replacements by AI, but like in the future, as AI keeps evolving, that might happen. And like that combined with inflation and lack of money management might lead people. Well, not might. It will lead to people. It will lead people to have like these situations where they are like screwed basically until they change something. But in that situation, it's much more difficult than trying to do that right now, right away. And regarding the universalization, so to call it, of like money management and financial education, I think that has to do, of course, with pages like yours and this just general globalization that we have been experiencing for years after the internet started and social media started to grow, right? And yeah, I mean that's interesting about Singapore, and I was curious about what comments you had on that. Now I would like to get into this part of this topic that you talk about a lot, of strategies and
Hmm.
systems. And you talk about that in many ways, like
Hmm.
investing in ETFs, which is like betting on one system, not one winner. And you
Hmm.
have also like strategies, so to call them, or about starting to invest young so that you benefit more from the compound effect. But those are things that I think people can just go to your page and learn about that there. So I want to get into something that you might not necessarily always talk about in your page, so that people listening can like get that extra value. And I think there are two main topics. One you did talk about in a post you had about America's AI action plan, and so I want to get into that. And then the second one is like money leverage among countries, and I want to get into that one first, and just be brief in each of those. So like, it's very common, especially for people like who are pursuing some digital nomad path, to seek to earn in euros or dollars or Swiss francs, and then spend in rupees or in pesos, and like have that extra advantage monetarily. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that is some way that can help to build this financial freedom in some way? Or yeah, what do you think about that?
That's a good question. I absolutely do believe that it's a smart strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, when I was in Japan, I was talking with somebody, one of my followers, who that's kind of what they were doing. Is they were a U.S. citizen and they were still earning in U.S. dollars, but they were living in Japan because the yen is weaker compared to the U.S. dollar. So they kind of got a discount. There's like a 30% discount on whatever they bought in Japan. Plus, the cost of living was significantly cheaper than it was in the U.S. It was crazy because like when I went to Japan, I went and got some Wagyu steak, which is amazing there. That's kind of what they're known for. And I went and got a full meal. So I got the Wagyu steak, got an appetizer, also got myself a nice cold beer. And that whole meal, I want to say was like $17, 17 US dollars. Where in the US, if I had to guess of like an equivalent restaurant and how much it would cost, I would say that meal would have costed maybe 55, $60, and that's probably on the lower end of the estimate.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you would have to leave a tip. In Japan, the tip culture is non-existent. So it's just the cost of living was significantly reasonable, much more reasonable than the U.S. So for one, to answer it directly, I'd say I think it's super smart if you have the option to work remotely and earn in U.S. dollars or earn in euros, and then live in a country with a more affordable cost of living, such as maybe India or Thailand. Thailand's a good one as well. Um, like, not only are you going to be able to keep more of your money, but you're also earning in a currency that is kind of built for a higher cost of living. It's like, in a way, you're going to be able to pocket a lot more of your cash because maybe rent, instead of being, $2,000 a month in the US, if you're in Thailand, it's probably going to be like $400 a month. And if you're still earning a US salary
Mm-hmm.
that thinks you're making $2,000 or that your rent's $2,000 a month, then you're just going to be able to pocket a significantly bigger portion of your cash and potentially invest it, potentially start a business. So I think, especially if you're younger, like if you have that opportunity, because it's harder to do when you have a family, if you have kids, if you have more responsibilities. But if you're younger, and you don't have any responsibilities, and you have the option to earn remotely, whether it's in the U.S. or Europe, and then you also have you're also willing to maybe live in Thailand or India or like a cheaper cost of living area for a little bit. Like, that's a massive way to save a lot of money. And then not only will you be able to save a lot of money, but it's just going to open options for you to, if you can save up like 20,000 euros or 20,000 US dollars while still enjoying life in India or Thailand or whatever other lower cost, even Japan, like Japan was relatively lower cost of living. You're still going to be able to enjoy your life there, but you're also going to be able to set aside a nice pile of cash that you can do a lot with. Again, this is all about options. That's what this is. It's not about the money. It's about the options. If you save up 20,000 US dollars or 20,000 euros, maybe after like a year, then you could potentially invest that in the stock market. Like, that's an easy route. Or maybe you want to start your own business. Like, $20,000 is going to help you a lot at starting your own business.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you want to buy your own home, right? Maybe you want to come back to the US or Europe, wherever you live, and then you want to actually buy a home. It's like, well, it's going to be easier when you have 20,000 kind of set aside to help with that down payment. So I think, Emiliano, that's a super smart strategy. And I would just complement it with, to make sure you have the system part of it down as well, because
Mm-hmm.
it's one thing to have the strategy and maneuver through that and say you're going to do that strategy, but it's another thing to actually do it. And that's where the system comes into play. It's where maybe if you decide to move to Japan and you're earning in US dollars, like you're earning a tech salary and you're working remotely, and you somehow get like a work visa for Japan, maybe the system part of it is having a high yield savings account and making sure the money you're saving is actually going to an account out of your ability to actually spend it, right? It's like automating that money you're saving to kind of go out of your sight so that it's actually kind of it's actually building up and not just kind of weathering away when you're kind of traveling out in your wherever you're at. So like that's the thing. It's like it's one thing to have a strategy, or it's one thing to implement a strategy, but it's a whole lot easier once you have a system in place that's automated, whether it's putting a portion of your paycheck into a specific high yield savings account or a savings account, or putting a portion into investing in the stock markets. The system part is the most important part, because one thing I've noticed with the hundreds or maybe even thousands of people I've spoken with is it's one thing to have a strategy, but if people don't have that system behind the scenes to make it actually work, almost always people won't actually end up saving the money, or they'll just kind of think they are, and then they'll, their year will end and that trip will be over, and then they'll realize like, oh, maybe I didn't save up as much cash as I thought I did because it was kind of burning a hole in my pocket because I didn't have a system in place. I mean, for sure, like you'd still enjoy the trip, like spending that money in a lower cost of living is going to be a lot of fun. But that's kind of where the system part kind of comes into play, is making sure you are making the right moves, or like the moves are being made to execute on the strategy.
Sure. No, I agree on the part of like setting this system, because I think many people already do that, who have the possibility to work remotely, that they go there and they just increase their spending instead of so if they
Exactly.
had like
Exactly.
$2,000 to spend monthly in the US, they keep spending that in Thailand, but they just give themselves a more luxurious lifestyle, right? Which is not the point. The point is like
That's
to leverage that alongside like your age, or leveraging being young, to be able like to have that compound effect be built on that. The other thing that I wanted to get into, but because of time, I think it won't be like we won't have enough space to talk about that, is your post on America's AI action plan and what you suggest for people to like get prepared financially and professionally for the future of AI. But since that would be a little longer conversation, I will just add that link to the description of the episode so that people listening can go and check that out. And then just for now, I have like some rapid fire questions that I usually ask my guests and that I would
Cool.
love you to dive into. So the first one is, what is a book, a movie, a music album, a blog, anything that you have watched or consumed recently that you have enjoyed or found valuable? And this can be related to the topics that we have discussed about like financial education, or about something else. Like you decide that.
Okay. That's a good question. I think I'm just gonna have to leave it. I'll have to leave with the psychology of money, because first off, I actually reread this book maybe 4 months ago. I always like to revisit it, not only for helping myself just like fully ingrain the concepts, but also for just market hustle content. It helps kind of give me better ideas of like how to make tackle different topics. But I think if you're listening to this and you're still kind of hesitant of like, you know, can I change my financial situation? Is it even possible? If you feel stuck financially, I think this book, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, is a complete game changer. And I'm not just recommending it just to recommend it. This is the book that I've noticed my audience, when they read it, have the biggest changes. They'll have the biggest behavior changes, and they'll have the biggest just reframes around how they view money that actually helps them start managing money better and start investing a lot more consistently and with purpose behind it. Because like a lot of people are investing in one way or another. Maybe they have a 401k or some sort of retirement account, but to me, it's like they're kind of half in, right? Like they have their toes in the water, but they could definitely be doing a lot more if they understood how investing works and understood how to build their own system behind the scenes. And so that's why I think I say this often. Like if you just spend 20 hours learning about compound interest, about budget strategies, about index funds, about market cycles, like just these fundamental concepts. If you can just dedicate 20 hours, I'll be honest, it might not be the most fun or the sexiest stuff to learn about, but it's going to be the most impactful stuff. That's going to they're life skills, right? They're fundamental life skills. They should be taught in school, but they're not. And if you can master them just with that 20 hours, it's going to completely change your financial trajectory of your life. And I think a great way to start with that, kind of to Emiliano, like to your point, with that stage zero, starting with the mindset, the beliefs, I think the best way to start with that is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel.
Great. Yeah. With this, we get to the next question, which you could relate to this. And since we didn't talk about AI, maybe if you want to mention something about that.
Yeah.
But this is like, what is something that you have learned recently or discovered that you found very valuable or interesting? And just to also shoot the last question, so you can ask both. So that's on the like what you have learned side, right? And then
Okay.
the second one is my podcast is called Coffee Lounge, as I told you. And I like to ask, what is your favorite coffee drink, and what is a situation in which you enjoy drinking coffee? So yeah, if you want to answer both of those, however you want.
I'd have to go with Americano first. Let's start with the coffee. I'm a big
Sure.
Americano fan. I just like espresso, so whatever can wake me up.
Cool.
But I like to work at. I'll tend to like take a couple days a week working at coffee shops just to kind of change my environment, and maybe I can tie that into also what I've learned is I think changing your environment, uh, even let me back up a little bit more. Even going to Japan, when you just go into a completely new culture, it really opens your eyes to just a different way to view things, a different way of life, different way of living. And I think that's where some of the biggest breakthroughs come, at least for me, is like when I change my environment, whether it's changing where I work, if I go to a different coffee shop, or traveling. Like I love to travel. I travel often in the US domestically. So whether it's like taking a trip to Arizona to visit family, luckily I have family there, so I can stay there for free, or California, Idaho, like just making those like taking the time to intentionally change your environment. And if you can't travel right now for whatever reason, it could be as simple as just going to a new coffee shop, like a place you've never gone to, because it kind of forces what I've realized is it forces you to kind of get out of your comfort zone in a sense, right? Because like we all want to go into these. If you don't intentionally try to get out of your comfort zone, you're just going to go to the same places you've always liked, or you're going to go to the same coffee shops, you're going to go to the same countries, the same states because they're familiar. But if you can challenge yourself to go into newer environments, it forces you to get out of your comfort zone, which is the ingredient to having bigger breakthroughs when it comes to other problems you might be dealing with, maybe in your business, maybe in your career, maybe in your relationships, whatever it is. The best way I've found, at least something I've noticed, is like the more I get out of old environments and into new environments, the more it really opens my eyes to some of the problems or bottlenecks I'm dealing with in my own business.
Sure, no, and that ties to the rest of the conversation about like really changing your beliefs and your mindset, and that helps for like life overall, but especially for this money side that we have been discussing. So yeah, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you for coming. Is there anything else you want to add, mention, ask, talk about? Anything?
Well, I thank you for having me on here, Emiliano. It's fun. It's kind of fun to chop it up a little bit, talk over some of these concepts, and I guess for the audience, again, even if you're like in your odds are you're probably younger, but if you're not, if you're older, if you're in your 40s, like it's never too late to change your current financial situation. I've seen it, a lot of incredible progress be made by people who thought they could never even invest or even knowing that that was an option for them. I guess I'll leave you with this: like a lot can change with a year or two of intentional action and focus and doing what you say you want to do. If you can commit to that for a year or two, like your life can change beyond what you might even expect. So
Mhm.
don't think it's too late for you. Don't think you're stuck with bad money habits. Don't think you're not capable of learning. The good news is you don't need a finance degree to actually be good investing in the stock market. Like there's simple strategies. I talk about them a lot on my page at the Market Hustle. So check that out. I have tons of free information, podcast of over 42 hours of financial education. We bring on different guests. I think the best way is just to change your environment. Kind of circling back to the environment thing. It's right now if you're kind of stuck financially, you got to change your environment for where you're getting financial insights from. Right? You got to like get new insights about finance or money management from different places. And I think that's how you kind of have those breakthroughs. But overall, Emiliano, yeah, I really appreciate being on here. This is a lot of fun. And I look forward to kind of seeing how this podcast grows.
Great. Yeah, I'll share things with you when I post them.